Hello guys and gals, Buffalo here. Welcome back to the range. Today I'm going to feature my Mossberg Patriot bolt action rifle chambered in 450 Bushmaster. So let's jump right into the shooting footage. Alright, I've got 4 of those Hornady 250 grain FTX custom loads loaded up. First thing I'm going to do is just shoot it standing here at the big steel target downrange at 100 yards. I like it. Alright, I've got this big jug of, well, a partial jug of Kroger salsa that's been in my refrigerator since 94, 95. Let's see what it does when it's hit with the 450 Bushmaster. Alright, just going to drop a single round in here. I'm about 20 yards from the salsa. Okay, now that we've got the range smelling like the dumpster behind my local Mexican restaurant, I've also got a gallon of paint, I believe to be blue. We bought this a long time ago and never used it. Ended up being a color we couldn't really use, so let's take care of it. Another big beefy 450 Bushmaster round. Man, these things hit hard. Bucket of paint. Give my backstop a little touch up there. There's some of that Kentucky bluegrass for y'all. Okay, I've got one last thing here. Everybody knows that I like to shoot, so people drop me off odd things to shoot sometimes. My cousin dropped me off this oxygen tank. Don't know how he got it or why he had it. I didn't ask questions. But we will see. That's very, very heavy duty. We will see if the old 450 Bushmaster can knock a hole in it. Alright guys, I've got this blue paint all over me. I don't see it on my gun. Let's see what we can do with Mr. Oxygen Tank. I think we ventilated it. So I was looking around here, and there's the little red tip off that bullet. Here's where it was hanging. The oxygen tank was hanging. And I also heard something hit the steel target. I heard the steel target ring when I shot that oxygen tank. And it left a mark here. Look at all that blue paint. But it left a mark here. And I couldn't find if it was a piece of bullet or a piece of the oxygen tank itself. Couldn't find anything. Look at all that fresh oxygen leaking out. Look what a hole. And that is some thick stuff. Wow, there's something rattling around. I've got blue paint. Look at my hands. I've got blue paint all over me. That'll never dry. Oh, that's part of our bullet. Look at that. Came out of that hole. The hole went through and through. It caught a little bit of our bullet in there. Cool. Let's do something else. All right, guys. I don't know how well the camera is picking them up, but I've got some steel knockover targets set up out there. See if I can knock them over. I had 4 set up. I hit the first one and 2 of them fell anyway. That 450 Bushmaster just delivers so much energy, and that little setup wasn't meant for something this big to be shot at it. Well, I got to shoot 2 of them anyway. So all of the shooting done in today's video, I'm using Hornady custom ammunition. It is a 250 grain FTX bullet loaded to 2200 feet per second. Now this video is mostly going to be about the rifle, but just a quick word on the 450 Bushmaster cartridge. This was developed to work inside the confines and limitations of the little AR-15 rifle. Turns out those limitations of trying to make a big thumper round work inside the AR-15 also coincided with a bunch of laws and regulations being put on hunters in certain states to hunt with straight wall cartridges of a certain diameter and length. It fell in perfect in a lot of those states that do that. And it also just happens to be a great deer hunting cartridge for close to medium range deer hunting. That's what makes this round so popular. It crossed over from the AR-15 platform to the bolt-action hunting rifle platform. Alright, so this is my Mossberg Patriot. These Patriot rifles are available in a wide variety of flavors and calibers. Mine is obviously in 450 Bushmaster, and I chose the walnut stock. Picked this up a few weeks ago from a local gun shop. Not going to lie, the biggest reason that I chose this over some of the others in its class, this thing is built to compete with the Ruger American, the Savage Axis, and other entry-level hunting rifles like that, bolt-action hunting rifles. But this stock just caught my eye. So many guns just have the plastic stocks these days that it really made this walnut stock stand out. You can see it's got the stippling on the pistol grip portion and on the fore end. Not hand checkered or anything like that, and I wouldn't expect it to be, but still a nice touch. Recoil pad, pretty standard fare, thick, not too soft, very usable. Came with sling swivel studs already in it. As far as the barrel goes, it's a 20-inch barrel, and it is threaded 11/16 24. So if you wanted to add a muzzle attachment like a brake, I know some people are more recoil sensitive than others. Recoil is about 80% subjective, in my opinion. One person, it won't bother a bit, and the next person can pick a 450 Bushmaster up and claim it kicks them like a horse. So just depends on how sensitive you are. You've got the option of adding a muzzle brake. I may add a linear compensator later on just to get some of the muzzle blast away from me, but I don't plan on adding a muzzle brake. Also, you could put a suppressor on if that's your game. Again, 20-inch barrel, 1 in 24 twist rate, button rifled, free floating. You can see this stock has a much wider gap on this side than it does on this side, but it is not touching. It is free floated. However, a little unsightly. My CZ 457 is the same way. I don't know what it is about why they have such a hard time, these manufacturers, of getting those stocks to be even close to being even. But you can see here, this one is not. And I've got a few other minor complaints with this rifle, but for the most part, I have to keep in mind the price range. And at that price range, there are sacrifices to be made. They can't just sell these rifles that cheap and give you the best of everything. So try to keep that in mind when I do this review. The action is very smooth on this rifle. I've got the scope mounted so low, and that's a Crimson Trace 2 series, 4 through 16 first focal plane. I've got it mounted very low on the rifle. It doesn't hit the scope. It clears it, but it catches this ear on my scope cap. So I've got a automatic scope cap opener. Worked out pretty good, actually. Like I said, it doesn't actually hit the scope. It just catches that little ear. The bolt can be removed simply by pressing this little button, this little tab here. You can see it is spiral fluted. It's an assembled bolt that gives it a little bit of play up here. It's a dual lug. You can see the plunger style ejector there, but that assembled style of bolt gives it a little bit of play, so the lugs can settle in precisely when you close that bolt and lock it up. They can settle in and engage precisely. It's a cheap way of getting them to lock up nice and even. The trigger is what they call their LBA trigger, or lightning bolt action trigger. You can see the little lightning bolt cut out there in the trigger. It's real similar to the Savage Accu trigger. It's adjustable from 2 to 7 pounds. This one breaks around 2 pounds 6 ounces. Now, I haven't touched this trigger. That's the way it came out of the box. I haven't adjusted it any whatsoever, but that is a very nice trigger. Breaks clean. 2 pounds 6 ounces is plenty light. In fact, for most of my hunting rifles, I prefer about a 3-pound trigger, but I'm not going to complain about a 2 pound 6 ounce trigger. Very, very nice. What else am I forgetting here? Has a 13 3/4 inch length of pull. Nice cheek rest on the stock, and the stock is a straight style stock. Got that nice cheek rest on there. The bolt handle is knurled. Give you a good grip on the handle itself. Does come with a 4-round magazine. The magazine is plastic. Some people complain about that. I'm not going to complain about it. A lot of my magazines are plastic these days, it seems, so not a big deal to me. Probably not going to be a rifle where I'm going to be dropping mags on the ground and doing fast mag changes or anything like that. I believe it'll hold up just fine for what I plan on using this rifle for. It does have, this is one of my complaints, it has a plastic, I think they call it polycarbonate chassis in here that's integral with the mag well. It runs up and sandwiches between the stock and the action, and your action screws go through that plastic. So you have to be careful not to over torque your action screws. I've seen a lot of photos online of cracked, the little chassis plastic piece that goes in here is cracked, where people try to tinker with their action screws to get the most accuracy out of the rifle, or they take their stock off to adjust the trigger, and when they put it back on, they over tighten those action screws and crack that plastic. So be wary of that if you have these action screws out for any reason, or if you just want to mess with the torque on them. Be aware that you can crack that plastic chassis in there. I call it plastic. I know somebody will probably fuss at me for that. There's so many different kinds of plastic out there that they can use. Seems like maybe they use a cheaper plastic in this rifle. This rifle has an advertised weight of 7 pounds, but with this scope, rings, and flip-up caps on it, this one comes to just a shade under 9 pounds. This rifle measures 40 1/4 inches overall. Now, it is made in the USA, and you know, Mossberg does import some of their firearms, but This one is made in the USA, and it better be. If they're going to call it the Patriot, it better be American made, and it is. So American made product. I like it. It fits me so well, and again, this stock was the decision maker for me over a couple of the others that I was looking at. Not only just because it's walnut and I think it looks better, but this straight comb gives me a good cheek weld and puts my eye where it needs to be looking through that scope. A lot of these budget rifles will use the same stock on their models with iron sights as they do the ones with the scope, and that gives you entirely too much drop back here at the comb, and you're just kind of left with your cheek hanging out in the air when you look through your scope. So glad Mossberg didn't do that with this rifle. And it is a good value. The MSRP on this thing is $594. Now, you shouldn't be paying that in store for it. I paid $400 for this one at my local shop. I've seen them lower than that since I bought this one, and I've seen them a lot higher too. I've seen them at around $500. So, and it depends on what you want on it. Some of them are quite a bit cheaper if you get the synthetic stocks and stuff like that. But it depends on what flavor you want it in. The price is going to vary a little bit. And of course, it's 2021, the world we're living in right now. The prices are all over the place anyway. But again, that's what I paid for it. Talk a little bit about accuracy. I'm going to do a second video with this rifle and just do some 50-yard and 100-yard groups with it just for fun and just to see how accurate it is. But I can tell you it's plenty accurate enough. I zeroed this gun at 100 yards and I shot about a 3-inch group. It was real windy that day and my mind wasn't into it. I know I can do better than that. So like I say, you will see a part 2 on this, and I'll do some accuracy testing with that factory loaded ammunition. I don't reload for 450 Bushmaster yet. But anyway, since there's going to be a follow-up video on this gun, if there's something that you guys would like to see other than the accuracy testing I'm going to do, or if I failed to explain something and you want to know more about something that I mentioned today, let me know in the comments and I'll pick it back up in that second video. But for today, that's all I've got, and I'll talk with you guys again soon.